Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was born in Babylonia, and he spoke a language other than Arabic with a people who worshipped idols with zealous. His father was nicknamed Azar. He was so kind that he used to himself manufacture the idols for them in different shapes, made to order. Gods made to order. And people used to pray to them, look at them, talk to them, give them offerings, and everything else. As you know, idolatry. Ibrahim alayhi salam grew up, and one day he was approximately what you would call today 12 years old. And he realized in his instinctive, conscious nature, at a tender age, he sees his father praying to these idols and selling them. He sees everybody carrying them on their shoulder, putting them in places and praying to them. Ibrahim alayhi salam comes to his father and says, Ya abati, why do you worship something that doesn't hear, doesn't see, and doesn't benefit you in anything? Ya abati, I love you. Don't worship the shaitan. You see, his father knew about the story of Adam. He knew about the story of shaitan. He knows the story about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They all worshipped Allah one and only, but they made partners with him. Ya abati, oh my beloved father, there has come to me news that has not come to you yet. Follow me. I am able to guide you to a guidance which suits both of us. After a little while, the father sort of got convinced by his son. So he says, all right then, you take them and sell them in the market. So Ibrahim alayhi salam goes out with the idols to the market, and he says, oh people, who would like to buy something, a product that cannot benefit you in any way and cannot harm you in any way? Nobody bought the idols. When he returned back home and found that he couldn't sell anything, the father said, well, could you say something that doesn't benefit or harm? He goes, Dad, I'm telling the truth. And then one day he says to his father something not good. His father says to him, the king Namrud is our God. And he said, no, he's not. Allah is the God of Namrud and you. And they said that how dare you leave the religion of your own parents? And finally, his father said to him, do you think that you are greater than me and our belief, that you think you're better than my own gods, Ya Ibrahim? You don't stop what you're doing. لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ, I will abandon you. I will disown you. Ibrahim alayhi salam continued to tenderly talk to his father, regardless. Until finally, Ibrahim made the choice when there was no hope. And he said to his father, if you're not going to accept me, you're not going to have me, I will leave you alone. I will continue to ask Allah to forgive you. And I will continue to call upon Allah. My Lord will never leave me alone, and I hope that He guides you and me, my father. As he left, he saw a bunch of people in this land, and they were each worshipping a bunch of stars. He looked up into these stars or these planets, and he said, that star over there, that's my Lord. When that planet or that star disappeared, qala, he said, I don't like those that disappear. My Lord wouldn't disappear. Once He appears, He disappears. No. If my Lord appears, He will not disappear. Therefore, it cannot be my Lord. When he saw the moon outlit and right up in the horizon, so in its absolute biggest form, قال هذا ربي هذا أكبر. This is really my Lord. This is my Lord. This is bigger than the star. When the moon disappeared, I don't think my Lord would leave me alone. I don't like a Lord that disappears on me. He saw the sun even bigger and shining. He said, قال هذا ربي. He said, this is my Lord. This is the biggest one. When the sun itself disappeared at sunset, Ibrahim a.s. turns to his people out loud and he says, no, 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 my Lord is not any of them. My Lord does not leave me. He is not those ones. Did Ibrahim a.s. really think that they were his God? And that was our argument, which we specifically gave to Ibrahim a.s. to use against his people. He was using it as an argument
to try and teach his people a lesson. Everybody knew that Ibrahim alayhi salam was faking it, but the people did not believe in him, and so he left them. On his way, he went past the temple,
and he looked up at the stars, and he said to the people, I feel sick, and I need to stay here so the idols can cure me. And they said, yeah, that's good, that's fine. They left him, and he had in his little baggage an axe. When they left, he looked at the idols, and he spoke to the idols. He says, have some food. No one spoke to him. Came to the big one. It was a big statue. Take some food, eat. They didn't talk to him. Why didn't you talk back? And he said, Wallah, I know that you have no power whatsoever, and you are just stones that they have built. He grabs the sledgehammer and starts to break the idols. And he leaves the big idol as it is. The next day the people come along and they see their idols all smashed. And they were enraged. Who did this to our gods? Who did this to our gods? Who broke our gods? So one of them said, it was a young boy, يقال له Ibrahim. He's the one who did it. So Ibrahim a.s. was caught. He said, oh no, it's the big one there, that big statue. He's the one that broke all the other idols. He got jealous of them and he wanted to prove that he's the bigger God. They started thinking, that's true. So they looked at Ibrahim and he said, Ibrahim, look, listen, come here. You know and we know that they can't talk. He said, two on you and your gods. He shouldn't have done that. But he had the right to do that because they were offering him, they were bribing him. You want me to share your corruption? You want me to share your injustice of the people? And you've been using these gods to put these people down and to use them and to exploit them? At that point, they didn't like it. They were about to be exposed, you see. They grabbed Ibrahim a.s. He can't talk anymore. They tied him up with ropes and they put him in the catapult. And they said, bring all the trees and all the wood and everything. They kept gathering it until it was the height of a three-story building in the hadith. They lit it up. The fire was so huge that people had to stand really back. They couldn't throw him in there except with a catapult. They put him in the catapult. They wouldn't hear from him anymore and they released it. Ibrahim alayhi salam starts flying in the air, heading towards the big blazing fire. He said, Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. My Lord, Allah is enough, and He is the best to rely on. As a result, Allah said, and so we said, O fire, be cool and be peaceful on Ibrahim. He stayed in there before their eyes, and they thought he had burnt. And after the fire was extinguished, he comes out right before their eyes. And only one person believes in him. His name was Lut, alayhi salam, his cousin. They believed that this is a miracle. They did believe that. But guess what the problem was? They refused to declare that they believe. This is the arrogance that Allah talked about. Iblis started off like that. Remember in the beginning of our story? Same thing. He's doing the same trick with the people. Arrogance, ego, biggest evil of man. Ibrahim alayhi salam then couldn't do anything more, so he left the people and made dua for them. In the Qur'an and in the Talmud, it is said that Ibrahim alayhi salam had to face the king of Iraq. His name was Nimrod. Whether he was summoned to him or whether whether the king heard about him and he called him to come along, whether it was reported, we don't know. But the king of the land called and summoned Ibrahim and had him arrested, and he was in custody. The people of Iraq, including the king Nimrod, they believed in one God. But what did they do that was wrong? They put other things like God. The story of Nimrod was that he believed in the creator of the universe, but he considered himself the legislator of the world, not God. Nobody has the right to go above his law, even if they brought it from God or prophets, anyone. So he summoned him and said to him,
Consider that one who argued with Ibrahim about his Lord just because Allah had given him a kingdom. Like Nimrod, he says, look, we know who our Lord is, the creator of the universe. I'm your Lord about laws. So who's your Lord? What kind of a system do you follow? Ibrahim said, alayhi salam, my Lord is the one who gives life and causes death. How do you give life and death, since you think you're a God? He says, I give life and cause death too. So what he did was he brought 2 prisoners. He said to his guards, kill that prisoner and let that prisoner live. You see? I cause death and let this one live. I'm a God. Ibrahim alayhi salam did not mean that. He meant bring life from nothing, cause death and let it turn back into soil. You do it all. Not that. But instead of Ibrahim alayhi salam arguing with him about that, he knew. An intelligent person doesn't let a person drag you into some stupid argument. Well then, Allah brings out the sun from where it comes out. You can see it. You bring it from the west. Why don't you change it around? He was dumbfounded, the one who denied. Why? He knew he can't bring the sun out from the west. If he answered anything, the people will think, what kind of a puny God are you? So this is what Nimrod did. Instead, Nimrod didn't want to look like a failed king or God. Instead, what does he do? What does a failed person do? He says, leave. He just got rid of him. So Ibrahim a.s. was exiled and he had to leave his land. Only Lut a.s. embraced and followed him. On his way, he met a beautiful woman. Her name was Sarah. Ibrahim a.s. didn't marry her for her beauty. She was the only believer, so he married her for her character. There was one thing about Sarah alayhi salam. She was barren. She couldn't have children. Yet Ibrahim a.s. stayed with her. 80 years, no children from her. Sarah alayhi salam followed him and believed. On his way, he decided to stop by somewhere near Syria, and something occurred to Ibrahim alayhi salam. He thought about what Nimrod was saying and life and death. Although Ibrahim alayhi salam's belief was 100%, Allah said, and recall when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, my Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. Allah said, why? Do you have no faith? Ibrahim replied, yes, I do have faith, but in order that my heart be at rest. So then Allah said, then take 4 birds and tame them, make them your own until they get used to you. Then after slaughtering them, put a part of them on every hill and call them. They will come to you flying. Know well that Allah is Almighty, All-Wise. And so he did that. He put their heads together with him and he put a piece and he mixed the birds up. And he put them on 4 different hills. Then he stood where their heads are and Allah said to him, call them. He said, come. And the birds he saw before their eyes, they rolled and came and the earth brought them. They came together before their eyes and each part found its head and they became alive and flew towards him, on his shoulder and everywhere. My brothers and sisters in Islam, he walked on his way to Palestine, Jerusalem. He was going there where most of the prophets went. On his way, he passed through Egypt. In Egypt, there was a tyrant king, and he loved women. And Sarah alayha salam, most beautiful woman. His guards saw her, and they ran to their king saying, said, we found one of the most beautiful women we've ever seen. But with her is a man. So we said to them, go and ask who he is. If he is her husband, kill him. But if he's not, tell him to go. Jibreel alayhi salam came to Ibrahim alayhi salam and he said to him, these guards will come and ask who you are. So he said to his wife Sarah, when the guards come to ask you about me, tell them I am your brother. Did he lie? You are allowed to lie if you have been wronged and it's a matter of life and death situation. And still Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't technically lie. I am your brother in Islam. Brothers and sisters, they came and asked her, who is this? And she said, he is my brother. So they told him to go, and they captured her and took her. Ibrahim a.s. couldn't do anything. At this point, it's Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. So she went they took her to the king, and they brought her in front of him. The king tried to touch her, and she made a dua, oh Allah, if you know that I am a pure, chaste woman, and that I have not let any man touch me in my life, except for my own husband, then do not let this disbeliever, this evil kafir touch me. And suddenly the king's arm became paralyzed. He couldn't move it. And then he said to her, release me. He tried again a second time. She said the same dua. Same thing happened. He said, let me go. Third time, let me go. And then he said to his guards, she's a sorcerer, because they believed in sorcery. Get her out of my face. And see that woman, that slave woman I've got, one's giving me a headache. Send her with her as a slave so she can never come back, because he wanted to please Sarah because he got afraid of her. He got scared of her. And he had this slave, her name was Hajar. And she was such a nuisance, stubborn to the king. He could never get anything out of her. So he sent her with Sarah as well. And so Hajar became the slave of Sarah alayhi salam. Sarah took her and she treated her well. When she reached where Ibrahim alayhi salam was, he was close to Palestine in a hut. She saw him praying. And when he finished, he looked at her and with all ease, what happened? She said, Allah saved me. So then they went to Palestine, and there they settled and called the people to Islam. Time passed. And Ibrahim alayhi salam became old. Sarah alayhi salam was both barren, she couldn't have children, and she had passed menopause and grown old as well. Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted a child. He wanted a boy in particular. And he's thinking, hardly anyone has believed. In this world that I live in, only a man is able to carry on my legacy to these people, and it'll work. So for the purpose that he wanted a child, which is a noble one, and that is to leave the message of Allah behind him to the people, the legacy of deen, he needed a boy. Why? Because the people are challenging. He would probably need to fight. And so we gave him good news that he will have a patient boy. Sarah alayhi salam looked at Ibrahim alayhi salam and he was making that dua, oh Allah, give me a son, give me a son. And she felt very sorry for him. So she freed Hajar and gave her as a gift to Ibrahim alayhi salam to marry her as a second wife. And even subhanallah, she gifted him as a wife, yet subhanallah, she was still jealous of him. And Allah gave him a son Ismail from Hajar.